This episode is sponsored by Zenro Clothing Co. Pick up your tees and or accessories at zenroclothingco.com and be sure to use offer code SOCRATES at checkout for 20% off select items. Also, if you're not into spending the money, just check out the Zenro radio playlist. zenroclothingco.com, music for your everyday. This episode also sponsored by The Pornian Bakery. If you're located in the Pornian area of Scarborough, Toronto, be sure to check out The Pornian Bakery, say what's up to Arville, and pick up a donut or two. Baked daily, crafted with love. This episode also sponsored by Podbean. Podbean is the podcasting platform of choice. It's the one that me and Vish use, and is great, you know, if you're looking to start that DIY podcast yourself. Definitely check out Podbean. Use the link podbean.com/SocraticGamers and gain 1 month of unlimited podcasting for free. Test it out, build that content. Anyone could podcast, right, Vish?
Yep.
Start a podcast and get your ideas out there. All right, enjoy the episode. Okay, so we jumped on, and as I always do, I say, "Oh, do you want to add anything, Vish?" And you're like, "No, I wasn't paying attention this week." And I was like, "Yo, same." But I was wondering about this though. Like that's why I was like, "Oh, let's just start the podcast." Is it because there's just so much influx of like things you're just like, "Oh, I need to like pause," or were you just like busy this week? I was also busy, but like at the same time, I try and fill things in. But
I get the busy thing, but I think it's more just there's just too much going on. Like
for real, right?
Like I think we need to let things settle to really know what's the actual facts of what's going on.
Yeah, totally. I agree with that. Even with like the UFO stuff and like I haven't read a book in so long because I've been like binging all this UFO stuff, and like I was listening to the podcast about it, but at the same time, just like there's just a lot of information going on. You know, like with the Trump thing, how like we were supposed to get tariffs, and then all of a sudden, like, oh, he just like partnered with Canada again in this thing, and then like somebody's like,
delayed it,
we'll delayed it, yeah. but then it's like, oh, but he already had that bill that was going to be passed. So I'm like you're just making us look like left, right. It's like, oh, dude, I need to like chill out, you know. And if we're feeling that. So it's like, okay, we're vestedly interested in like what's coming next, right? So, but if we're feeling that, it's like, what are other people feeling? You know, just like that's probably what it is most of the time. You know, when I'm trying to like tell people aliens are like, dude, I can't even focus on that right now. You know, and like the anxiety over, you know, like what is coming next. I don't know. Like I've been seeing a lot of like aside from the Trump thing, there's like a lot of like watch out for 2027, blah blah blah, and you're just like, are you sure? Are you sure this is gonna happen? You know what I mean? Like just like the Trump thing, are you sure? Like I thought we were gonna get crazy disclosure in the first 2 days. Didn't happen. You're like, okay. I thought we were gonna get a tariff thing. Okay, didn't happen. So you're like, is this the problem with the internet, or like looking at too much information? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's just bombarded with information. I mean, but the thing is, like, some things could be true within that bombardment. Maybe that's the whole plan of it all. I don't know.
No, I agree with you. Like, maybe that is the thing. It's like if we just, but I mean, that's how psyops technically work. That's what they're saying, like, for the alien stuff. Like, they'll give you, like, 2 truths and a lie. Or no, like, 1 truth, 2 lies and a truth, you know? They'll bury it. And then it's like you have to decipher what's real and what's not. And then, like, everything else is, like a red herring. You know, like, in communications, public relations, they talk about red herrings where it's like, they'll make you look over here, but it's like they're doing something else over here. So it's like, why was that whole tariff thing so crazy? And we're like, oh my God, it's going to be nuts. Everyone's preparing, whatever. Stock market's going around. And then, like, no. And you're like, what?
Yeah.
You know, it was like, it's almost like a lot of, you remember like 2012 and like early 2000s? Remember like,
I mean, I don't remember it. But, yeah, I remember this.
You remember like the Y2K bug?
Yeah, I remember
like,
the
freaking
Y2K.
out, like,
yeah,
right.
Yeah.
I remember this distinctly. Like it was like year 2000, and in my head I was like, okay, well they said it was gonna all shut down, so we were all like at my aunt's house, and I was playing chess with France, and then I was like, okay, here you go, 1-0, and nothing happened. I was like, I guess we're gonna keep playing this game. You know what I mean? And like. And then later it was like, no, it was actually the Mayan calendar. 2012 is actually when it's going to end. And then
Someone
2012 came,
is
we're like,
doing that. Yeah,
oh,
yeah. But
dog.
I heard about the Y2K thing. It was just like a bug they already fixed by the time it was coming down.
But they didn't announce that. You still had like
I think
mass
that they
hysteria.
well I think it's this. I think that they did say that thing, that they had fixed this sort of issue, but it was news media that's like, well, it's gonna sell more if you say it this
Yeah,
way,
that's what I'm saying, bro. So
right?
it's like this is the weird like social experiment that's continually going on, which is like if you just pay too much attention to media, you're almost like it's like a double-edged sword. You want to know, but at the same time you're like, do I really want to know? Or like, are you just gonna like fix this on the side? It's almost like there's two realities happening where it's like they make decisions at the top and then we're like supposed to live with it and
Mm-hmm.
we're worried about what they're doing, but it's like on a day-to-day basis, like, does it really matter? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm about to go climbing later. It's like, does that really matter? Like what your economics decision is? Maybe unless I feel it at, the grocery store.
Mm-hmm.
But this is like an analogy for like the UFO thing as well. It's like me obsessed with like, oh my God, there's so much. But like if they are like, yeah, the UFOs are around us, you'd be like, that's cool. How much is milk?
Yeah,
You
right.
know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm. It's more about that. Yeah, how is this gonna affect my life?
right? Like, will it be an existential crisis like we're all thinking about? Like, for the first couple of days, when they were like coming out with this, like, oh my God, this is crazy. And like, what does this all mean? Like, Jake Barber's like Skywatcher, like, oh, we're gonna get some craziness in like 2025. But now it's like, just show me, bro, and I'll figure out what to do from there, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah. I think it's more that. I think someone is generating like all this hype or craziness around it. Of course, trying to get that information out, but then is it something that's really that it's going to affect people, right?
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Right? It's just like, oh, it happened, or like the tariff thing. Oh, like the craziness leading up to it. Oh, what's going to do? It's going to lose all jobs and all these, like we talking about all these other recessions or something like that.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
then it's
yeah.
like nothing happened.
Yeah, right.
Just,
And then like
we just
the
move
thing
on.
goes right, and then the thing goes circulating around, like everyone's like, "Oh, buy this instead of this," like those spreadsheets. And then I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
my
yeah, yeah,
mom
yeah.
sent me one. I was like, oh, "Okay,"
Yeah,
and
buy
then like
Canadian. Yeah, yeah, that
buy
kind of
Canadian,
stuff.
and then now it's
Yeah,
like actually throw that out, just save that for later in case it comes back. Unless something really drastic happens, it's like, do we need to care about it? And maybe that's why people have those jobs.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's like Jake Barber, you care about it, bro. Like I don't have the money to like set up my own UFO
Sure.
like analysis system. I can just listen to the information that you're providing me with, but
Mm-hmm.
like I'm not, like I'm not directly engaged in it like
Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
are. And that's your job, bro, and like you keep doing that job and you let us all know what's going on. Like there's a reason why there's like virologists
Mm-hmm.
like working on cancer cures and then they're like, "Hey, here's a cancer cure." Like that's cool, thank you.
Yeah.
But like maybe too much information is like a bad thing. And this all stemmed from me asking you like, "Oh, any topics?" You're like, "I didn't pay attention." I was like, "I didn't either," which is crazy to me. That we
Yeah.
both weren't like, but we're like always like, "Oh, what happened? What happened this week?"
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's just too much. Yeah, that was interesting. You felt that, but I did hear like an interesting thing. Like, not this isn't really like world related
Mm-hmm.
in terms of like crises. But I was listening to this like lost civilization thing. Do you see that they made? Maybe you can check this out right now. Like since we're like just chilling. I
Exactly.
heard that there's a square structure on Mars, and it was like it's been
Yeah,
known
I heard
about for a
about
while.
that, but I
Okay,
don't.
you did? All right,
Yeah, yeah,
cool.
yeah. But I
And
don't
then
know
they
how
looked at
true
it,
that is yet.
but the thing is this:
But
in nature,
remember, there was even like
yeah.
things like, oh, there's a face on Mars too. That was like a long time ago too. Before.
But that's like pareidolia. Like you see faces in clouds. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah,
like,
yeah.
the square. The reason why the square is interesting is because nothing in nature has a right angle triangle. Right angle. Yeah, it's nothing's like perfectly right angle, and that's why they're like, oh, this is crazy because like
Sure. Yeah,
there's
yeah,
like a
yeah.
square. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what would you do if out of everything I've listened to and the most compelling thing, I don't know if the science is right, but like Billy Carson, Forbidden Knowledge,
Mm-hmm.
and like we they was there a colony on Mars? And then like did they come to Earth? And then they start building? You know what I mean? Like, but what would that do to your reality? Like, what I'm trying to say is like, would that actually destroy anything? You just be like, oh, that's really cool information. I didn't know that that was
Right.
the way that was. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, oh,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
explains why we're different from every other thing.
Sure.
I like. I think the fear is that people are like, oh, if you announce this, people are gonna
Hmm.
freak out.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, oh, we're all aliens. You know? But it's like, okay, if we're all aliens, that just explains a lot more.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, okay, I get why I'm not like a dog. I get why I'm not like an octopus. Why are we
Right.
the only thing on this planet? It's the one thing that would actually make sense. You know what I mean? Like people are
Hmm.
like, oh, the
Hmm.
prefrontal cortex grew so big. You know, maybe like octopuses are aliens too, like because they're so intelligent. But like, I don't see any tools like we have. You know. But okay, so where I was going with this is that um, they like Billy Carson's theory or from what he's read and the thing that makes sense. And I'm like, actually, this actually all lines up is we were like monkeys, you know? That's why we have like chimp DNA or like very close to it. And then they came and they look kind of like us. And they're like, oh, these humanoid looking things are kind of like us. They're just in an earlier spectrum of like evolution. So they started to like genetically engineer things. And think about like if we went to another planet, wouldn't we do the same thing? We'd be like, oh, there's like kind of this monkey thing. Instead of me doing the work, why don't I just like splice the DNA and like advance it? Right, for like productivity. Because remember you said like at the end of the day, we're always just mining for resources. If we find a planet, we're just mining for those resources. If we find like a meteor, we're gonna mine for those resources.
Hmm.
Right?
Hmm.
So like let's say you're like, oh, I need gold from Earth. And you see like a monkey looking thing. Wouldn't you be like, oh, this is actually if we should give it a bit of intelligence, it could probably like is that out of the realm of possibility, or do you think we'd have like laws like we can't affect the life form?
I think that it depends on the level of testings that you can do. I don't know, because we still do animal testing now, right?
Right, right, exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
And like, so we do animal testing. So if we go to another planet, why wouldn't we do animal testing? So it makes logical sense that we would do animal testing there, and then we'd like create some sort of hypergenetic species that's different from all other animals on that planet. So if we were like monkeys back in the day, and then like we were living off the land and stuff, not monkeys, but it's like Polynesian people are the most native look. Like indigenous people, they look the most like native, you
Hmm.
know? So if you saw a bunch of those and you're like, oh, it's not too far off from us, we could just like enhance them to make them more intelligent, right? And then let's say we did that and then they started to like build certain tools, you know? Which is basically describing how we got here. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? If
we're
right? So if you just
we're
said
still
like, hey,
doing that
aliens
now.
came, right? So it's like if that's why I like Billy Carson's thing because like if an alien race came and just like spliced it a little bit in order to help them do work, like we would do the same thing, and it actually explains a lot of how we got here. Because you're like, why why are we so different from our environment? You know, I don't see buildings from other animals.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And so okay, so like let's say they did that to a small portion. So what I'm really getting at here is if you look at what ancient historians say is that like there was a hyper Atlantis basically. There was like a really hyper knowledgeable civilization and then they started to spread around the world because they were like seafaring and then in their spreading out they met other cultures which are like more indigenous and like they lived off the land kind of thing.
Hmm.
And that explains like Graham Hancock's like seven sages, like these seven sages went around the world sharing knowledge after a global cataclysm. Okay?
Hmm.
Sounds crazy, but it's like if you look at America and like civilization, you can still find uncontacted tribes today in the Amazon.
Hmm.
Like there's a guy Paul Rosalie who just found one, right? So it's like the reason why we have uncontacted tribes is because of colonization, right? Like Britain went around the world, started to colonize things, right? He went to Mexico and like they went to Peru, slaughtered everyone, you know what I mean? And like if you go back in time and then you're like there's actually a hyper advanced civilization called Britain and then there's all these like not hyper advanced civilizations aren't you just describing like that alien theory of like they came and then they started to spread their seed around the earth? Like, you know what I mean? It just logically makes sense that that is what happened. Like, unless you're like, no, I see some holes and
The
like
alien thing,
no,
or
no, like if an advanced civilization, if an alien came, made Atlantis, and then those Atlanteans spread out throughout the world, and they were like colonizing and like teaching their knowledge to make like the rest of the world, catch up, basically.
hmm
Isn't that like basically what just happened through the colonial period? Like not even 200 years ago,
hmm
right? So it's like, okay, if that could happen now, why couldn't that happen back then?
right, sure,
Right? Like
yeah,
you have
yeah,
like
yeah,
this
yeah, yeah.
advanced civilization comes from aliens. Like, okay, they're pretty similar, so they start spreading around the world, and they're like, oh, I'm gonna mate with you because like we look similar. You're just at a lower knowledge level. It doesn't really matter. You know what I mean? We didn't really understand like genetic we weren't intelligent enough to be like, oh, you're actually a Homo erectus and I'm a Homo sapien.
hmm
It just they were like, oh, okay, you guys kind of look similar. We're just gonna mate.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's happened in Europe
Right?
with. That's why some of them have the Neanderthal DNA, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. And like, if you look at the DNA matching, you're like, oh yeah, I have like 23%, or 0.01
right.
Neanderthal. Yeah, totally. Like Joe Rogan talked about that. He's part Neanderthal. So it's like, okay, so
I
there
think a lot of
was some,
Europeans are. Yeah.
right. So like, it almost seems like if you just told us that that's what happened, everything would click.
hmm
But it's like, why wouldn't you tell us? And like, I don't think there'd be like some existential, especially because like this past week, how we didn't listen to anything, we were like so focused on our lives. It's like, well, then why wouldn't that new information we just accept it like black holes? You're like, oh, they're black holes. You're like, that's cool.
hmm
Like, oh, we are descendants from aliens. That's cool. Like that makes sense.
hmm
You know.
Yeah.
So do you see like a crazy? The only one that I heard, I was like, okay, this sounds kind of wild. Is if they're like we're property. So one scientist was like, if that's true, we're technically their property because like they made us. And I'm like,
Right.
oh, that sounds kind of weird, yeah, but like it wouldn't change anything because aren't we the property of like Canada? We pay taxes, bro.
Yeah. True. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I
Yeah.
don't know how crazy this alien disclosure will actually be on the human psyche.
hmm
Like, will they just take it like science? You're like, oh, yeah. And all the
Possible. Yeah.
conspiracies, like, you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like all the conspiracy theorists are like, I told you, right? But then it's like the people during the Copernican revolution of like the Earth is round, we revolve around the sun. They're like, I told you. It's like, oh yeah, yeah, just write that in the new textbook. That's all. Like
Yeah.
nobody
It
cared. You know
didn't
what I mean?
change.
It's
It
just like,
didn't change anybody's life. It's like okay,
right?
I'm still here.
And that's where I'm at right now because I'm like, a lot of alien information coming out. I'm just like, okay, but you're not gonna do anything with it.
hmm hmm
You know, it's like it'll just be cool information. We're like, oh, that's cool. Like how they're
Yeah.
like all of a sudden psychics are real. You're like, oh, damn, can I learn that? Like, yeah, you
hmm
can. Okay, do you want to learn that? It's like this. It's like, you can strangle somebody with their own clothes, or I could break your limbs, right? Like jujitsu.
Yeah.
Do you want to learn that? You can learn that. You know what I mean? It's like,
hmm
oh, we're all psychic. Oh, that's cool. Do you want to learn that? Oh,
hmm
it takes a lot of work. I don't really want
Yeah.
to learn that. You know what I mean? So it's like, would it really change things? I don't know.
I don't. I really don't think so. I think, as you said, right. It depends on where you're at. If again, yeah, if you want to be a psychic, how many thousands of hours do you need to be to get that?
That's what I'm saying, bro.
Do I have
It's
time for
like
that now, or I'm focused on something else, right?
totally. So like right now, I was actually thinking about this morning. Like, so I do jiu-jitsu and then climbing and then like knife fighting. I was like, man, I really want to learn judo as well. But I'm
hmm
like, there's not enough hours in the day. So it's like, okay, you want to be a psychic? Go learn to be a psychic.
hmm
There's not enough hours in the day, bro. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I really, because I'm trying to place everything. Because it's like, okay, psychics are real. Done. All right. Now what? Like, are you like winning the lottery? No, you're just able to like cold read and like psychically pilot UAP vehicles. Okay, cool.
You're right.
You know what I mean? Like, okay, so we're gonna get like tech where we can psychically like fly something with it. You know what I mean? It's like there's nothing there that is going to give another person more advanced power than another
Mm-hmm.
person.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, we still have to pay our bills.
Yeah.
You know, like, oh yeah, I can literally just kill you right now with my bare hands. Cool, but you still have to pay your bills.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's like nothing changes. Like no matter what superpower it just is that your pursuit that you want,
Mm-hmm. Right.
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I'm tripping out. Like, what do you do with the psychic thing now? Like, okay, psychics are real. Like, I don't know. Yeah. It it's it's just more options. That's what I think. You
Mm-hmm.
know, it's like you're you're not going to drastically change the world with this new information or like, the fact that psychics are real, but you're just adding more potentials on the table.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. Yeah.
you could do it if you want,
Mm-hmm.
or like maybe somebody like Elon Musk will be like, "Hey, I'm just going to create a psychic technology, so you don't even have to train, bro. Just
Yeah,
implant it."
I was thinking that too. It's like just something you wear on your head, like
Yeah,
cerebro kind of thing or something.
right? So it's like, okay, so now that we know we have this latent psychic potential, can we create a technology to give us more psychic potentials?
Which is
And
what we tend to do anyways.
maybe,
Yeah.
oh wait, hold on.
Oh, I can't hear you.
No, you can't hear me. All
Oh,
right,
there
hold
you
on.
go. Oh, they're back
Yeah,
in.
yeah, cool, cool. All right, cool. Yeah, I hit the thing. I got too excited. But yeah, you were saying it's like this is what we do anyways. It's like we find the easiest path towards getting that thing done,
Which is technology. Yeah. Yeah.
right? It's like okay, back in the day, there was a really strong dude who can like lift the lumber for you. So you'd have to go find these giants, and then like, oh, dude, like
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you're so big. Can you can you lift this like log for me to build my house? It's like, all right, I'm just gonna invent a tractor now. I'm just gonna like, you know what I mean? We're technology. We open the door towards more possibilities. So now it's all about technology to fill those gaps,
Yeah. I mean, we're a tool based species, right? Like it doesn't
right?
like we used elephants. Somehow we trained elephants to lift those big logs in like
Right? Yeah.
other countries. Like how do we do that, right? So,
Like it's
someone
all
started that.
right. Yeah. So it's almost like once we figure out that there's a new potential, we figure out the best way to make it efficient and easy for us to do.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So like I was like just to go back to the jiu-jitsu example, it's like, oh, I can kill with my bare hands. That's cool. I have a gun. So it's like I could do the same thing,
Right.
just the easier way. I don't need to like years and years of training. I'm just gonna
Mm-hmm.
pick up this gun, shoot you. You know?
Mm-hmm.
It's like that is just what we do. So who knows in the future you might just have like a thing in the back of your ear and you're just calling ships. Like, hey, I need my car to come, you know?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And then we have anti-grav. It really maybe that's what I'm like most excited for. It's like what I keep talking about the cyberpunk future. Like with this psychic thing, maybe it's like I have this little piece. I don't need to train for years in the mountains to like become a psychic. Actually, Naruto talked about this. How like the olden days they would train to learn jujitsu. Oh, sorry, not jujitsu, like jutsu, and like
Mm-hmm.
they would like do like fire spell, with their hands. And then they invented this thing that would just like shoot fire. And then Naruto's like, oh, you've like eliminated the requirement of years and years of training.
Right. Right.
It's like, but that's technology, bro.
Mm-hmm.
So like if we have the little tech piece that amplifies your psychic ability, plus we have like anti-grav now, it's like right after this podcast, I have a balcony right here. I could just call my vehicle and I just hop in the vehicle and I'll just fly away to go
Mm-hmm.
do the next activity.
Right.
But
Yeah.
that's like that's the cyberpunk video game, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what's crazy too? It's like Jake Barber talking about faction. I think we talked about this last week,
Mm-hmm.
but like piloting UAP with your mind. I was watching like it reminded me of Black Panther, so I had to create the cut up of it. She's literally in a meditation posture and she's flying the ship, and I'm like, oh, you knew the whole time. Like
Mm-hmm.
somebody knew enough to like put this in there.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That's why I'm like, I feel like with anime, it really there's somebody there that like they know because UFOs are pretty big in their culture, right? Like there's that place in Japan where you can go and you could literally see UFOs because it's where the power plant like blew up
Mm-hmm.
or like meltdown. Remember that during the tsunami and
Fukushima.
then like Fukushima, yeah. And then like there's a town there now that gets like a lot of UFO activity. We don't hear that news in the West, but like there, you know, they see it a lot. And there's a new anime that just came out called Dan to Dan, and it's about demons and UFOs.
Mm.
And I'm like, if you read into the UAP lore, that's literally what they're talking about now, like spirit world entities and UFOs. So I'm like, Japan seems like a culture of like they will tell you the truth through their art.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So like now I'm going back and watching all these anime. I'm like, what's real here? You know, like you talk about psychics, you talk about a spirit world. Like this at the end of this thing called Yu Yu Hakusho, this show I've talked about it before, but I finished the anime. So the whole premise is that there's like the demon world and then there's Earth. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we're talking about a spirit world now in literal pop culture, not pop culture, but like scientific thing. They're like, oh, interdimensional beings. Okay, where's the other dimension? Okay, spirit world. So okay, there you go. Like that's Yu Yu Hakusho. All right. So then they had this tournament and then they left the gate open because like there was a gate blocking the demon world and the human world because they didn't want demons to pass through. And then they had this tournament. They like became benevolent, so they opened the door so some humans can actually slip into the demon world accidentally. And then like at the end of the series, they're like, "Oh, one of the main characters like, oh, they thought he was a UFO." Like in the newspaper, they're like, "Oh, this man slipped into a different
Mm-hmm.
dimension. He got abducted by UFOs." And then they go to that scene, and it's like, "No, he slipped into the demon world, and like he thinks they're UFOs now." You know, but it's like missing that level of misinterpretation. It's like that might actually be what's going on. Maybe people are because a lot of people are like these UFOs aren't from another planet. They're interdimensional.
Mm-hmm.
Remember we talked about that before? So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah. Yeah.
like what freaking dimension, bro? Like the
Mm-hmm.
demon world from Yu Yu Hakusho, you know?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, right. Right. Right.
and then like if these ships are from there, actually, you know what's a crazy one? The orbs. You know, they
Mm-hmm.
talk about the orbs. So in Yu Yu Hakusho, so somebody was like, so this is a true story. Like this is a real fact that they've seen, they've like captured. So like in this person's house, an orb will come and then like kind of chill there, and then it'll leave, and people freak out. They're like, "Oh my god, what is this orb?" And in other cultures, they're like, "Oh, those are spirits." Um, the Lou Elizondo guy, he went to indigenous cultures. They're like, "Oh, they're just like ancestors." But we're like, these are ghosts, bro. Like, what is this orb that they can see? You know, that come in. They like they can. There's a video of a film, like they film the orb,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's like, okay, so we know that there's something there. And then I'm watching Yu Yu Hakusho, and it's like the orb is related to the dude's spirit. It came out of his body, and then it was like a little orb that like flew around, a light orb, and I'm like, how'd you guys know about that? Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it's like is for so long we've had a reductionist approach towards reality because of science. You know, it's like if we can't measure it, it's not real. But
Sure.
now it's like, right, and like, which is great. But at the same time, now it's like we've pushed out spirit from that,
Mm-hmm.
and now I think we're going back to spirit, which is like all these question marks of like, is there life after death? Is there a demon? Is there an angel? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel that? Do you see that too? Do you feel that too? Or do you think that's like crazy?
No, I don't think there's a shift in science yet for that. Like I would say mainstream science.
Not a shift, but like an opening door. So like before we're like, oh, like the God delusion, Richard Dawkins, right?
Mm-hmm.
God delusion. He's like, oh, there's no such thing as God. Everything's in your head, blah blah. And I'm with that approach too. It's like it's all a narrative in your head, right? But now they're like with the whole UFO thing, and it's like science. They're like we're opening the door to the unknown now. We thought we had everything figured out, like you know, like
Mm-hmm.
quantum mechanics, string theory, space, Hubble telescope, and we are like our hubris, our like arrogance in our own understanding made us feel like we were superior. And then now it's like, oh, actually, there's transdimensional objects, and like they can phase through. Like literally these technologies can phase through physical matter now. And
Mm-hmm.
you're just like, what? So like now you have room for mysticism again,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Do you
I
see that too,
understand
or
that.
like you know
No,
what I mean?
I think that was there for a while, especially when quantum physics came in.
Yeah,
Um,
totally. Right? Yeah,
right.
yeah, yeah. Because
But
they're like,
like
we don't know what this is.
exactly, yeah. I still don't think we know what it is. Right.
But you know what's crazy about, because you said quantum physics, right? So like it's funny because we thought we can measure things of what we see, right? But as you get into the smaller and smaller molecular level, you're like, oh, there's like some stuff that just changes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the psychic thing of like reading like someone's mind, they think it's quantum non-locality. So it's related to quantum physics. You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
so like they think that two atoms can be linked across time and space. So that's science. But like it took mysticism to get you there. You showed me that the what was that called? Einstein. Remember the documentary, the mockumentary or the dramatization? It's like a
Yeah.
drama. It was like his
Sure.
life, and then
Yeah.
it was like him talking about like the speed of light kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But remember, I was like, oh, Einstein was a yogi because he was actually just like using esoteric principles and like thinking about it. He's like, oh, and then he just like created a mathematical equation to explain that thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's almost like mysticism pushes us forward. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's like, is
Yeah.
that
Yeah. Yeah.
possible? And then science like verifies it.
Sure. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
But I think for a long stretch there, like I don't know, maybe like 100 years, it was always like science leads the way. Mysticism is like poo poo. You know, it's like that's not real, bro. But now it's like we're return. Yeah,
Yeah.
what do you say?
I think maybe because there was a lot of other stuff that was in it with mysticism that wasn't true.
Mm.
So where it was like, it's saying it's like maybe 1% of it was. Let's say it's 1% of it's true, but you're filled with 99%. So it shifted in that way, thinking that nothing is
Oh, that's what you're
true,
saying.
right?
Right,
Where
right, right, right.
where it's like maybe there's some sliver of truth in there, but that's a very small percentage. But you have to sieve through so much to get to that point. So maybe that's where this quantum physics has got to that point, where now we're in
R-
that section.
Right, 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 right. Right. Okay, maybe yeah, maybe we did master everything we can see. Now it's about mathematically mastering things we can't see.
Hmm.
You know, because things change when you get to like a smaller and smaller level. Yeah,
I
it could
mean,
be
but I
because
mean,
like
because of
yeah.
what I'm saying is like that whole process is still science, right? It's science that led
Exactly.
us in
Yeah.
this direction. So it's all based on whatever your evidence is. That's how you go with science.
Right, right, right. But I think it's like but during the Einstein times and like Nikola Tesla, because like Nikola Tesla, he was very all these scientists, if you actually look back into the thing, they were very into the occult. Like the like sacred ancient knowledge. Um Newton, you know, like action reaction.
Hmm.
You know, like he had all these like the law of thermodynamics and like all this stuff, right? So you're like, wow, he's a genius. He came up with that. Newton was also deeply into the occult. And if you look into the Emerald Tablets, it's literally Newton's laws. When I read the Emerald Tablets, I was like, oh, these are Newton's laws.
Hmm.
But then you look into Newton, you're like, oh, he was deep into the occult. So all he did was he was like, okay, this is what the Emerald Tablet says. Can I scientifically prove this?
Hmm.
You know, and then he made formulas of like that we use today, which is like physics, which create action reaction, right? And like this is what I mean of like mysticism got like a bad name, so we stopped looking into it. But like mysticism is really what pushed us forward scientifically.
Hmm.
And then science is verifying it. And then, like you said, it's like, okay, this is real from science. Now we can move more in this direction. Okay, well, mysticism also says this. So, like, can we get there? And like, okay, cool. Let's mathematically figure this out. You know, you need to work in tandem with one another. Like, science and mysticism are like two sides of the same coin.
Sure. Yeah.
You
I mean,
know,
that's how we
but like,
push
yeah,
ideas. Like, there's no way you can make new
yeah,
ideas without that kind of stuff, right?
right,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. So it like maybe maybe it's almost like you hear about the Pythagorean theorem thing. I think it was like Babylon already had Pythagorean theorem. Were you the one who told me that?
There was some. I had seen like some Indian scientists that had it like long before.
Right. So, okay. But then we're like, hey, we came up with the Pythagorean
Mm-hmm.
theorem recently. It's like, no, no, we had that before. So it's almost like maybe there was like this ancient knowledge that we all knew about, but we we like didn't we thought it was like stories. And then we didn't think of it because unless somebody in our generation came up with it and then we use science to verify
I
it,
don't know if it's
it's
necessarily
not real, you know?
stories. I don't think it's necessarily stories, but I think it's language. We just like if you don't understand each other, if we can't, there's not a way to communicate what you're trying to say. Like, how do you
Yeah.
communicate Pythagoras theorem? I don't know when he created that, what language it was there, and like someone else is in India, like has a totally different language of it, right? If how do
Right, right,
you?
right, right.
It's only based on the math, I guess, that you can really show it. But like now, it's just like, why are we calling it Pythagoras theorem? Could have been called something else, right?
True. Yeah, 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 facts. So maybe, they say like math is the language of God.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can break down the universe in mathematics. So like maybe they just independently stumbled upon the same thing because it's a universal truth.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like one plus one equals two, no matter where you go.
Yeah. Well,
So
unless
I mean, yeah, one plus one equals one. Terrence Howard. Apparently that's true though. Somebody, a mathematician, explained it, but he's like, but he's using a different principle. It's not. He's
it's not
using
the
it like
but he's using a different
occasionally.
language. He's using it as a different language. He's not explaining it exactly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like, because I saw a mathematician, like, I think it was theories of everything. He's like, that's an actual thing.
Mm.
Like, there is one plus one equals one in math, but it's not like everyday, like arithmetic or whatever. It's not like
Yeah, yeah,
everyday
yeah.
math.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's very like philosophical math. You know,
Okay, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that's different then.
That's what the math like. But Terrence Howard was like, I'm gonna present this, and then we're all like, oh my god, that's crazy. And the mathematicians are like, that's an old truth, but it's not really applicable.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah. So maybe that's the thing. It's like maybe these ancient people are like the reason why like Newton and Einstein were so into the occult and esoteric knowledge is because like they knew that these were real things, but we didn't know how to like apply them, right? So like what I mean by that too is if you look into any textbook, no, not textbook, any ancient script
Mm-hmm.
across the board, they will all talk about meditation. It might not be about like it might not be like sitting and like just whatever. It's just like something about like mastering the mind and like clearing the mind, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And we're like, okay, the applicable aspect of that is I can like clear my mind and keep going on with my day. At that level, sure. And then now we're thinking about how UAPs can be controlled through meditation. So you're like, okay, guys, in all those textbooks, were you just telling us how to pilot those crafts? They're like, hey, there's actually also this ability if you can tap into it. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like the action reaction thing, which was in the Emerald Tablet, and then Newton took it. It's like now some new scientist, whoever can come up with like mathematically consciousness is able to blah blah blah, and then we like come up with a scientific rationale for it, and then
Mm-hmm.
that person gets like put on a pedestal. They're like, it's the you know what I'm trying to say? It's like
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
the
yeah.
he's the Newton of our time,
Right,
you
right.
know. But he's like, but I actually stole that from all this ancient knowledge,
Mm-hmm.
because like, why are they all saying meditation? And we're like, yeah, meditation's great. You can go about your day. And then now these psionic people are like, you can actually tap into, you can communicate across distances through meditation. So like, I can contact an alien race through meditation. I can pilot the vehicle through meditation. So it's like, were all those ancient scripts trying to tell you like meditation's the answer? Because it's like you have so much more tools,
Mm-hmm.
but we won't know until we know. But like that's what the psionics are literally using. Like those people on that team, they're like, we're psychically calling the craft.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like,
Yeah.
okay, what is that? Like. And then that's the mysticism pushing it. And then science is going to come back and like that's why Gary Nolan's there, like on their team. They're like, we need a Nobel scientist to like make this like legitimate.
Mm-hmm.
So if you make it legitimate, it's like then it becomes science. You know what I'm saying? It's like we were so quick to ostracize things because they don't fall within our current understanding. But if you look at all of the top scientists of the time, they were all breaking the paradigm,
Yeah. Right.
right? And I think we're going back to that. That's what I'm excited about. Like we haven't had an Einstein in forever. You
Hmm.
know, like speed of light. You can't go past speed of light. You're like, what are you talking about, bro? You know, there's a speed of light. What? You
Yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah.
but
Right.
he got that through like a freaking meditation thing. Like he was like just thinking about it according to the documentary. But like he was just like thinking about it. He's like, oh, speed of light. Oh, and then he came up with his like math equals MC squared or something, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
He just took a universal principle and made a mathematical equation out of it. So we might get that, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then if you do that, it's like, can you apply that to technology now? So now that
Hmm.
we have the math, it's like, okay, if we just like adjust it, you know. Yeah. I don't know. I really do think we're on the precipice of um,
New science.
cyber cyberpunk
Oh,
reality.
yeah, 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 okay. Yeah.
Well, yeah, new science because like that is I think we've capped it. Like if we're stuck on electrical wires and like fossil fuels, this is it. This is the best we're gonna get, bro. You're just gonna get better M3 chips, M4, you
Hmm.
know, but like we haven't had a breakthrough in a long time. And I think like we are about to have a breakthrough if they can scientifically quantify the Skywatcher thing. Yeah. What do you know? You don't think so, or maybe so
Uh,
far fetched?
no, no, no. I'm saying like even if science can prove that, it's just how. What can we do with that, right?
That's really what it
That's
is, bro. It's like, what can we do with that? Like, yeah, it goes back to the beginning of the podcast. It was like, well, what does this mean for my life, bro? Like,
yeah.
okay, tariffs. Oh, no tariffs. All right, cool. So tell me when I need to worry about how much more I need to pay.
Right.
You know what I mean? But like, you're all doing the work in the background.
Hmm.
I really don't think. I really don't think there's going to be a crazy cataclysm. Who knows? You know, like maybe because everyone's like 2027. Like, oh, I'm making my bunkers. Like, Mark Zuckerberg's making a bunker.
Why?
You're
Why?
like,
Who's saying that? I'll like. Is it because of some
the
asteroid or
UFO
something?
scare. No, no, UFOs. A
Oh,
mass
for
UFO
UFOs.
invasion. Yeah, mass UFO invasion 2027. They're going
Okay.
to say that they're going to say that a ship has come and they're going to battle with Earth and we're going to have World War III fought in space. That's what they're saying. Like there's a
Okay.
giant psyop of like to band the whole Earth together, we're going to have a universal enemy. And I'm like, even the scientist who patented the anti-gravity thing that he works in the Navy, he was like, I was listening to the podcast, I'm like, this is crazy. He's like, I kind of wish every day that we had an external enemy. I'm like, what are you saying, bro? He's like, then the whole world would work together and fight this evil. And I'm like, it's a little crazy, bro.
yeah. Right.
Like like, oh, there's an invading alien race. Now we need to like fight back. I'm like, bro, I'm just trying to pay my bills, you know? Like, what are we doing?
Hmm.
But I just don't they're like I don't see with the level of infrastructure that we have that happening.
Hmm.
Like even if like, you know, people are like, oh, global cataclysm and it like destroyed everything. Like and then we had to restart civilization 12,000 years ago. That's what they say. Like 12,000 years ago, it looked like there was a huge global cataclysm, an asteroid hit, and then like we had to start over. Maybe. I don't know if any other race has ever been this far reaching as us.
Hmm.
Like we're so globally like like our span is crazy. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Like and then in what 10,000 years you're not going to see like cities or remnants of cities.
Hmm.
Unless maybe you would like you'd see like nuclear reactors or something, bro. Because
Yeah.
that's
You see
supposed to like
something.
last forever, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Or like plastic. You'd be like, what is this plastic? You
Well, I
know?
mean,
Like,
unless whatever happened on Mars, right? That's what we see the square, the foundations of something that were left behind.
that yeah, facts. That's true. That's true. That would be so crazy. That would actually be so crazy. If yeah, you're right. Like if you find out that there was life on Mars, like, well, what happened, bro?
Hmm.
You know? Um, what's his name? Billy Carson's theory on that, from what he's read and like all that stuff, is they had like a nuclear war within each other. Like they had nuclear holocaust, and that's why Mars is the way it is. Like they destroyed their atmosphere with their like nuclear bombs.
But isn't it
I don't know that true, but
to didn't Elon Musk say like to restart Mars you would need a nuclear thing around their atmosphere to kind of restart
oh yeah, it's like
something?
yeah, I don't know, it's like start the water or something, right?
Yeah, I
Like
don't
to
know
get
what
the
it
water.
was, but something.
I heard that they found recently like actual water on Mars.
They have ice on Mars, yeah.
No, but like water, like water.
I
I
don't
mean,
know.
I think it's more new because like it was in the podcast that I was listening to. They're like, "Oh, they just found water," and the guy's like, "Yeah, I know, that's crazy." And then Joe Rogan's like, "What's in that water, bro? Like, is there like fish? You know, like because at the deepest
I
depths
don't
of
know if
our
they.
ocean,
I don't know.
too."
I've seen that about like flowing water. I know about ice water.
Okay, yeah, we'll wait till that gets more like solidified. You know what's
But
actually
they're
really
doing
crazy?
I
Yeah.
what's that thing? Whatever rover is up there. I believe it's drilling and then like keeping capsules of things behind. Where if whenever the next rover does come around, that's supposed to pick up and like be able to come back to Earth, like pick up those capsules to come back to Earth,
Oh, oh, so that they can like study it.
study the material.
That's interesting. One thing that Joe McGonigal said. So Joe McGonigal's like the I said it before. He's the number one psychic spy. He's won so many awards for like his psychic spy abilities, and we know psionics, so we know it's like okay, you guys were really using this. The CIA program had like Project Stargate, and he was like the number one. It's like Torch Flame in the beginning, just change names, but he was like number one, and he's won so many awards, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what he was saying is that his theory is that they've been here a long time, and we just didn't know that they were here. And we've been sharing this world with them. And if you think about like the global cataclysm 12,000 years ago, if there was an advanced race like that, because we read about the meditation and like whatever, it's like, what if they went underground, like he said? What if they are in the water, like he said?
Mm-hmm.
Like, why are there like UFO bases that they see in like if you look in other UFO people, they're like there seems to be UFO bases in these mountainous regions and these waters, right? So you're like, if you had such an advanced technology, wouldn't you, if you're afraid of the atmosphere, wouldn't you just like go
Go underground.
underneath?
Or
Yeah,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like it just, or like in the water where you can't be affected. Like, even if there was another asteroid that hit us, it's like, yeah, the surface level people would all die, but we're still cool because we're in the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
And there was this one video of UA. So this was, all right, so this was like a year ago when I heard um, Forbidden Knowledge talk about this. He's like, you can phase through things through vibration. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So what that means is every molecule has a specific frequency that it vibrates at. So if you can create a thing that can vibrate at the exact same frequency as that molecule, you could pass right through that physical object. Because we know that there's space between all things. Like even though there's this cup and I can't push past the cup, it's because like my vibration is like repelling that cup.
Mm-hmm.
Like my molecules never touch that cup. You know, that's science, right?
Yeah.
Right. So what he was saying is like we don't openly have the technology, but if you can vibrate at the exact same frequency, you can phase right through things.
Mm-hmm.
Sounded crazy at the time. So now with the whole UFO stuff and like everything coming out, they're like, "Oh, it seems like these UAP can phase through mountains." And I'm like, "Wait, that's just what Forbidden Knowledge said." So I'm like, have they figured out a way to like vibrate, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like, okay, so they the ancient texts are telling us about meditation. Forbidden knowledge brought up the whole vibration of like the atoms. It's like, did this old race that used to inhabit the earth, are they just using that technology to like avoid detection and like stay underground? And like if there is a global cataclysm, it's like that's cool because like our bases are actually in the mountain and we can like phase right through
Mm-hmm.
and like get to our homes. You know what I mean? Like again, so like if that turned out to be true, It'd be like, cool story. They haven't heard us in so long, so we're just. It would be like, I know that sharks are in the ocean.
Yeah.
You know, he's like, but you stay in the ocean, bro, and I'm here. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like,
Mm-hmm.
you do you, I'm gonna do me,
Right.
right? So it's like, I still, even with that knowledge, I feel like it wouldn't change anything.
Mm-hmm.
It would just explain a lot. You know, you're like, oh, those balls that you see, they're actual spirits. You're like, oh, that's cool. Hey, what's up, spirit? You know,
Right.
like I'm
Right.
doing
Right.
my own thing. You know what I mean? Like, I really don't think it would change anything if we
Mm-hmm.
found out this information,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, like even with Jake Barber's, like, there's this angelic apparition that appears over his house now that he started on this journey, and like all his neighbors can see it, right? So all his neighbors are like, that's cool. Go to work still. You know, like, oh, there's a cool like angel thing. Like it's like the aurora borealis. We're like, oh, there's an aurora borealis, or like the eclipse. Oh, everyone's going outside to watch the eclipse. You know,
Right.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
it didn't actually do anything to our lives. It's just more
Mm-hmm.
of a spectacle. You know, would you agree, or you think that people would freak out and like quit their jobs and stuff? Some people might.
Some people might. Yeah. But I don't. I think people will also question what they're looking at. Question in the sense
Yeah,
like, what is this? And then just go on with their life if it's not
yeah,
affecting
yeah,
them.
that's true. Yeah, like, is that an alien? I don't know. Like, it's like a rainbow. You're like, that's a cool rainbow.
Mm-hmm.
It's not here all the time. I can appreciate it while it's here. You know,
Yeah. Right.
right?
Yeah.
But then the real question is like, why are you trying to freak us all out about this stuff?
Mm-hmm.
Like the government, you know, like, oh, there's 2027 aliens that attack. Oh, I need a secret bunker. You're just like, bro, is this the real
I don't
side?
know if
Like to
that's even the
control
government doing
people?
that though, right? I mean, do we know if it's necessarily the government?
All right, so you know what's crazy about that? So I heard that there's a thing called Project Bluebeam, like, which is this story of like aliens coming. And then I was listening to Stephen Greer, and now I take his stuff as like, you know, the most about what you're talking about because everyone's verifying you, you know. And he said that he's never seen a document like that. He's heard of that, but Project Bluebeam he's actually never seen.
Oh.
So I'm like,
Okay.
so maybe we are all just like lying to one another, you know. Somebody just said Project Bluebeam. It's like, where'd you get that document, bro? Because Stephen Greer said he didn't see it, and this
Right.
guy's
Right.
been in
Right.
for a long time. But he said
Mm.
they are going to hoax an alien invasion. He's heard that that is their plan, but like he hasn't seen documentation like everyone's talking about. So he's like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't. And then somebody's like, but we saw it on like Google or whatever. He's like, I don't trust Google. I trust my vetted sources of like documents, and he hasn't seen it. So I'm like, all right, cool, you haven't seen it.
Mm-hmm.
But he is warning us about like a false flag operation of like them bringing one world together. Which is all right. So this is pretty crazy. I saw a YouTube video about like I haven't watched it yet, but Stephen Greer really hates Lou Elizondo.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
He's a CIA operative, like telling us like lies, right? Trying to freak us out. And I was like, I don't know, you guys are saying the same thing. Remember, I kept saying like you guys are saying the same thing. And then even
Mm-hmm.
recently, Stephen Greer's like, oh, he's starting to say the correct information now. I'm like,
Oh.
okay,
Okay.
you guys are joining together. But Stephen Greer's all about love and harmony. He's like, no, we like these alien races, if they wanted to wipe us out, they could have done that. There's no need for them to like come in and blast us. He's like, that's more like Hollywood. You
Mm-hmm.
know, like you wouldn't destroy all of our, you know, whatever. Um, but then I saw the title of Lou. I haven't watched it yet, but Lou Elizondo was on this guy's podcast. And it said, "I've got my bunker ready," and I was like, "Dude, are you trying to like freak me out now?" You know what I mean? Like maybe Stephen Greer was correct. It's like give him a couple truths, freak him out with some lies.
Or is this like? I mean, it could be true, but like, could be like also sponsored by bunker companies. It's like,
Right? Yeah. Yeah. And so this whole thing, it's like I'm at this point now of like the tariffs. It's like, is it real, bro? Is it gonna happen? Because you just pulled the rug under that tariff thing. So
mm-hmm.
it's like, is there gonna be an alien invasion? You just pulled the rug under that thing, you know?
Right.
Yeah. It's it's too much information, but I think at the same time we'll be fine. I really don't see like do you see any like negative. The only thing is like maybe the world powers will shift. I really do feel that that's coming.
Yeah. There's. I don't know. Yeah. That's something that's to think about. I would say. Yeah.
Like you can kind of feel it, right? Like, oh, that's kind of weird that, you know?
Yeah. I mean. Yes, I would say yeah. Just more being more protective, as in not just focusing only on the United States as any other
Yeah, yeah,
country.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right? Yeah, it's sort of like when COVID happened and then they diversified their manufacturing. Like I
Mm-hmm.
went to Costco and usually everything's like made in China, right? And I bought this thing it was like made in Pakistan. Like it's like a flannel coat or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I read the back, it was like made in Pakistan. I was like, oh, cool. And then I saw this other thing, it was like made in Indonesia. And I was like, oh, oh, we're really diversifying.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, whereas before it was like everything was literally made in China. So
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if that'll happen too. It's like they're they're because of the diversification of the military power that we relied on for America, they will just slowly crumble as a superpower. But not like it's not going to be so disruptive. Like I think that everything shifts slowly,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
yeah.
Like there's no way it's like wake up tomorrow, oh, the economy of the US is done. Because everyone trades on the freaking stock market.
Mm-hmm.
Like all international companies. So it's like, really? You're gonna get rid of America, but they're like the trading platform of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe they're or what about this though? What about this? What if we're already in the midst of them not being the superpower? We just didn't admit it. It's like being in a recession, but you're like, we're not technically in a recession. You know what I mean? Because
Right.
like you go to America, you're like, ooh, this place is hurting. So
Yeah.
like
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
maybe just by default it's already happened. We just
Mm-hmm.
don't admit it to ourselves. I don't know. What do you
Mm-hmm.
think?
I mean, it's possible, but I guess if we're just looking at GDP as, if you just look at that only, right? Who's the only one making money? That's a different thing, but it's still America. But if you combine other countries together, they're all stronger than,
America.
right? Yeah. But that's if you're, trading partners get, better trading partners and things like that. You can, but right now, America still is a GDP number one, way ahead of.
Can you just Google that right now? I'm just so curious. Like this GDP number, if it's like, because you're way ahead. So I'm like, are you talking trillions? Are you talking a couple billion? You know what I mean?
Let's
Because
see.
like the top GDPs in the world, I guess.
Sure.
What are the top GDPs? Oh, while you're doing that, I'd like to correct something because I fed you false information last week about like the whole UFO storyline.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it wasn't the Roswell thing wasn't a nuclear test. It was they switched because I just heard the story again.
Yeah.
The nuclear bomb thing that I talked about was the first test at Trinity, and that attracted UFOs. But the Roswell thing was because they switched their radar, and there was a lightning storm. So the lightning storm plus the radar switch affected some sort of communications on the UFO craft, and that's why it crashed. It wasn't affected by like an EMP blast by a nuke.
Oh, okay. So our lightning.
So then, yeah, no, it was the radar switch plus lightning.
Okay.
And then somebody, like I think Joe Rogan was like, "But how does a radar switch like affect anything?"
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But it's sort of like we don't know what we do. Like you didn't. Oh, I didn't know I could short circuit it like that. Whoops. You know, we don't know how those things are running. But yeah,
Okay. So GDP of the United States, 25
yeah, yeah.
trillion.
Okay, 25 trillion. Okay.
Second is China at 17 trillion.
Oh, okay. So that's pretty hefty. That's
So
like
if you again, and then if you compare, I guess it's like also population, right? GDP per capita, population wise, they're much smaller population than China.
China.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you divide, yeah, okay. So there's a lot of unwealthy people in China. Is what
Yeah.
you're saying.
So it's a GDP per capita for the United States would be 74,000, and China would be 12,000.
Okay. In layman's terms, what does that mean?
Like per person. If you
Uh,
divide it by the population, right? The GDP of the United States is 25 trillion. If you do it by per person to their population, it would be 74,000. While because it's 1 billion people in China, 1.4, it's 12,000
oh,
per
I see what you're saying.
person. Like the
So supposing that each person makes 74,000.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. It's just like per capita wise, meaning per person out of their population of 300
Oh, I get
million.
what you're saying. Like the power of each person.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So like the power of that person in China is like 12,000.
Yeah.
The power of somebody in America is 75,000. Not that they're making that much,
Not
but
un-
like,
unnecessarily. Yeah. Someone could be making
yeah,
more
but
than that, but like, yeah, or less than that, right? So, but then that's
oh,
the,
so what that tells you is like a lot of people are suffering in China, like low income,
yeah, yeah.
and then like people who are in America are like not suffering as much because they're at like the 75,000
Comparatively. Yeah.
range.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
comparatively.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. What about Canada? I'm curious about that.
Canada, well, Japan is third, India's fifth, Canada's ninth at 2 trillion, 55,000 per capita
Okay.
for our population. So,
Okay. Well, what about, and that's actually pretty aligned with our average income. Remember, it's like
hmm
50, 55, 57 was the
yeah,
average
yeah, yeah,
income.
something like that. I don't remember
Well,
exactly, but
what's
it was in
Japan?
the Japan per 4 trillion. There's a big difference between second and third place.
But per capita,
Thirty
like
three
or the per
thousand.
person, 33.
Yeah,
Oh, okay. So it's not that great. Okay. Because like, what's Singapore? I'm curious about this one.
Singapore. 33rd.
Okay, but what's the per capita thing?
Per capita is 82,000.
82,000.
82,000.
Okay, that makes sense. So the reason why I wanted to ask you this is because like my family's in Singapore right now, and I been, have you been? No, you haven't been to
No.
Singapore. So they went to Japan, my
Mm-hmm.
family, and they're like, my mom was like, oh, I don't like it. It's too busy, whatever. And like that the lifestyle of the Japanese people is like work really hard. They have like such long days and like
Yeah,
like
yeah,
very
yeah.
very tough. And then if you look at the way that their city looks, I'm like, oh, it looks like an old Asian movie set, right? So they're sending me videos of Singapore right now, and I love Singapore. I'm like, because everyone here in Canada's like, oh, let's all go to Japan. Japan's the best, and I'm like, I've been and it's not that great, guys. And then like even my parents were like, "Oh, we're gonna go to Japan." They're like, "Oh, we didn't like it." I'm like, "I told you, like it's not that great." There's better cities in Asia that if you want to see like, "Whoa, this is dope," like go to like Singapore or something. So, Hong Kong I really like, but I don't know about that now. But like Singapore, it's like amazing, right? And they're sending me videos. I'm like, "Oh, that's the future, bro." Like they have this. My mom was saying that they have this like tracker on the road now, and if there's too much traffic, you get charged more money. Like they
Mm-hmm.
actually charge you a fee for spending time in traffic because they're trying to reduce like traffic times and like
Yeah, there's like a
emissions.
tax there for buying cars, like extra tax. So people don't buy cars there.
Yeah, okay, exactly, because they want it to be super efficient, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like if you look at hyper modern, it looks amazing. 83 makes a lot of sense. Like they're doing better than America per capita.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like that's why they're in the future, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Because their people are not suffering. Like they're able to like, but it's also a smaller country. Like, you were saying this before that like
Yeah.
Canada is such a huge landmass that you can't make it futuristic because like there's so many pockets of like forest,
It's so
right?
much more money, to
Right.
make
Yeah,
it.
yeah. But like it's a city, it's like a country city,
Yeah.
Singapore.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, you can hyper like make that thing industrious, or technological.
Yeah,
Um,
they had some good leaders there. There was a lot of problems used to be there in Singapore, clashes between cultures, where
oh,
oh
interesting.
yeah before and where it really changed, I think, was where uh, one of their presidents kind of like made it like, the issue was people were living in pockets
Okay.
and within their own communities, so you're not really connecting with other communities, so you see them as other.
Oh,
Where they
interesting.
redesigned their um, city planner thing, where it's like, you have to have people of different cultures within your building or whatever you're living in those areas, so your neighborhood isn't only one culture.
Oh, that's cool. That's
So
very
that's
cool.
that's like, now it's like, oh yeah, they're like us, they're just humans, right? It's just
So you know what's also really cool about no, like yeah, for sure, like you can do that because you're such a small
Hmm.
area, right? Like you can be like, oh, you're all just gonna work together. You know that Outward Bound in Singapore is mandatory in schools. Like
Oh
they
yeah.
force people. Yeah, I'm like, dude, that is so sick. Like
Hmm.
for me professionally, I'm like, oh, I wonder if I can like we can make that happen here. But like you were saying, it's too many districts, too much regulation. But because there's such a small thing, they can make this change. So like the president, prime minister, Singapore, whoever
Yeah, yeah.
leads Singapore,
Sure.
he went on an Outward Bound trip, and he's like, oh my God, people need to do this. So he made it mandatory in high school. So that's why the people are there like happy, they're working hard.
Right.
Their city's like futuristic, you know
Hmm.
what I mean? Like everyone's like learning resilience and like all that, connecting with nature. Like if you look at and this was actually in my cover letter of when I was applying for one of my first jobs. I wrote about Singapore and how I went there and like they're such a green city.
Hmm.
Like they figured out a way to combine like the natural elements with their city. Like like this rain will actually feed into this thing. It'll water a bunch of plants here, you know, and like, okay, we're gonna like have these roads that like hyper electrify your car so that you can have an electric car that's always running, you know what I mean? And like they've made it so modern, but like that's leagues ahead of where we are in the
Hmm.
rest of the world.
Sure.
You know, that could be technically Atlantis, bro, you know,
Yeah.
like of our modern time.
Right. Right.
But
Right.
my other one is South Korea because I really want to go to South Korea only because I've seen so many videos of it being like hyper technological.
Hmm.
But I'm like, and then in the airport, all the robots. So I'm like, what's the per capita GDP of Singapore?
Let me
Oh,
see.
sorry,
Yeah,
South
yeah,
Korea.
yeah. Okay, per cap South Korea is in 13th and
Oh, that's
per
pretty good.
capita is 32,000.
Oh, so it's not that great still.
Again, population size too, right? That's why it. So there's 51 million people in South Korea. Singapore had 5 million.
That's it.
That's it. Yeah,
5 million people.
5.6. Yeah, to be exact. But yeah.
That's crazy. Okay. I mean, like, until I go to South Korea and like see it for myself, I won't really know, but like Singapore is really impressive. But there's also a lot of expats there. Like if you go, even like in the photos my parents are sending me back, and like when I was there, it looked like Canada, bro. There's a lot of like white people, there's a lot of Indian people, there's like a lot of Chinese people. Like
Yeah, it's a
it's
pretty
not like a
good
study,
big
you know?
cultural. It's been always a mix. I think that's why for a long time. Like Singapore
Yeah.
isn't specifically some one culture or something. It's always
You
been
know
a
why?
mix.
But it was a trading
Just
post.
yeah, yeah. I was gonna say yeah, right. So
Yeah.
it makes sense.
That makes sense. Yeah. It's like, okay, well, everyone's coming to trade there. So, like, of course, you know, it's funny because the only reason why I wanted to go was because Jack Sparrow and that, like,
Hmm.
Pirates of the
Yeah,
Caribbean
yeah.
movie is always like, you've never been to Singapore before. I'm like, what's in Singapore, bro? And then, like, we were doing the boat tour, which, like, explains about how Singapore worked. And it was like a lot of pirates would go there because it was a
Mm,
trading post. So you'd have like
yeah.
a lot of, you'd have like a lot of Westerners go there during their deployments in Asia. So they'd go to the brothels and like, you know, like the
Hmm.
drug things. But then it got cleaned up, you know. But in the beginning, it was like a pirate town. Like
Right.
there
I
was like
guess
a
there
main
were
river.
they ever? I mean, maybe later on colonized, but maybe at those times it was like a no man's land kind of thing.
It was, yeah, yeah, that's what they said. Yeah, yeah. It's like there was a lot of opium there as well. And like
Hmm.
people would go there for like brothels and opium and stuff. And like then it got cleaned up, but it was very piratey
Right.
before.
Right.
So it
Right.
makes sense why Jack Sparrow brought it up, you know?
Hmm.
Yeah. Fascinating world. Like makes you just want to see more of it, you know what I mean? But we're
Yeah.
so like yeah. Sometimes like I'll hear about a country I didn't even know it was like how many countries are there in this world?
Uh, quite a
I'm pretty
few.
sure there's like quite a few, right? Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because somebody
Uh,
was saying like, oh, I'm going to this place. I was like, I've never heard of that before.
yeah. That's. Let me see. 195.
195. Okay. Can't remember what I'm at. Like 20 something countries. But 195 are like, bro, what? That's crazy. But I guess like when you go to Europe, you know, you're like traveling through like Italy and then here's Paris. And you know, it's like on the route. Those are
Hmm. Yeah.
technically
Yeah.
countries
Yeah.
too.
Yeah,
But
yeah, that's
195, like it'd be so cool to see like as many as you can before passing on. I really feel that this this world is like a crazy video game, bro. Like there's so many final thought because I have to shovel my parents' driveway.
okay.
Um the 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 world is like I don't know how to explain it. It's like its own video game. Yesterday Tara was showing me like Wealth Simple.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, I'm into like, well, have you used that? Use Wealth Simple? No.
I use Quest. I'm on Quest Trade, but yeah, I know about Simple. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So Tara's like all into Wealth Simple right now. And then I'm like, oh, that looks like some video game stuff that I used to play. Like you and I would just play it, you know? And then she was like, yeah, I haven't really seen you play too many video games recently. I'm like, because I mean, like one, there's no time, but two, it's like we used to play that so much as kids, but then you realize like the reason why you played them as kids is because we are so limited in our options. Like you know what I mean? Like we had no money. We couldn't do anything. Like I couldn't like as a kid you couldn't be like, hey, I'm gonna go jiu-jitsu. It's like who's paying for that? I don't know.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
But like but then you hit this point where like, oh, I can start doing things. Like I could travel. Like I don't have to just play as Nathan Drake and like I can go live out that experience as Nathan Drake, you know?
Yeah.
But we it's almost like there's a or maybe it's just me, like you let me know if you see this too, where it's like there's a moment where you can realize that, and then there's a moment where you can like lose that. So like what it means is like if you if you get caught up into the narrative of doing something that you have to do, like like if the world is like, hey, you need to get this specific job and this specific money set and like this family and like whatever, right? And then you're like you lose the realization of it being a video game and you're just locked into another game. You go from being a kid locked in your parents' world to an employee locked in your
Right. Right.
boss's
Right.
world. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? But there's a gap there where you're like, oh, wait a minute. There's like this whole world. And then you can like realize it during moments of like travel, I guess.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like most people just travel to like very safe spots. Like I grew up doing this, so I'm gonna just continue doing that. You know what I mean? Like I want to go to like a beach because I know what beaches are like. But they're like, dude, you see Colombia, bro? That was crazy. You're like, no, it's too dangerous. You know, or something like that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You get locked in from like one story to another story, and you miss the gap. Do you agree? No, you
Yeah.
see
Yeah.
it?
I mean, yeah, it can happen. Yeah, of course. Yeah. When there's a lot of other responsibilities, and you're kind of like the freedom isn't there. Like I just keep thinking about like
Freedom.
itchy boots.
Oh, dude. Oh, all right. I got a couple more minutes. That was it. Yeah. Right. Itchy boots. I had this in the notes. So you showed me. Okay, let's backtrack really quick to the Anunnaki and like the alien stuff. So my question is, if there were alien civilizations here before us, like where are the bones? Right, like unless you like they died and then you took the bones with you, maybe. But where is Sumer? Can you just check that out really quick? Like, is that in Iraq? Sumer?
Sumer? How do you
Where's
spell that?
Sumeria? Sorry,
Oh, Sumeria.
Sumeria.
Yeah.
Where is it?
Or
Iraq?
Sumer too. It's popped up
Yeah,
as
Sumer. Yeah.
Sumer. It's hold on, inside Iraq. Yeah.
It's in Iraq. All right, cool. Check this out, bro. This is the craziest revelation. So you showed me Itchy Boots going to Saddam Hussein's castle,
Yeah.
and it was overlooking Babel.
Yeah.
So if you look at the story of in the Bible, the Tower of Babel, so mankind figured out a way to like speak to one another, and because of language, we were all able to get on the same page, and we built this tower that led up to the gods. This is a biblical story. The tower that led up to the gods. The gods were unhappy because they're like they're gonna overtake us one day,
Right.
so they destroyed the tower and they spread the humans out and destroyed their common language. That's why we have multiple languages now. That's like the biblical story, you know, it's maybe not real. But if you're like, oh, there's okay, aliens created us, and they're like, oh, they're getting too powerful because they're working together, so we're gonna destroy them, we're gonna spread out them across the world and like no languages. Okay, cool. So Sumer, so the Tower of Babel is like one of the biggest stories because that's where we like work together. And then there's Sumer, which is when we saw Graham Hancock, and then I was like, oh, what's a really good book? And he's like the the history begins at Sumer. So I read the book, and everything that we do from like school systems to like mathematics to like written language, it all began in Sumer.
Hmm.
So okay, if there was an Atlantis, it would have been Sumer. If there was Anunnaki, it would have been Sumer. But
Right.
what did you say when they saw like the Babel and you're like there's like 5 million people in that there's a giant like
Well, that
burial?
other area, yeah, where she went
Right,
to.
right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right. And you're like, imagine if you could archaeologically like look at those things,
Yeah, yeah,
right? Iraq is a no-go zone.
yeah.
So what if it opened up its doors one day and we were able to send archaeologists and scientists there? You are probably hiding the truth of where we came from there.
Hmm.
If we're talking about Sumer, it's in Iraq. If you're talking about the Tower of Babel, it's in Iraq. So the reason why we don't know our true history is probably because no scientist is in Iraq, like excavating because it's like too holy. You know what I'm saying?
That area, yeah. That
That area.
specific. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But if there's any place that would have Anunnaki bones, I would think it was in the place where civilization started.
Hmm.
Duh, right? Because
Sure.
everyone's like going like, oh, we went to Mexico, we went to the pyramids, we went to all these places. It's like, yeah, cool, cool, cool. Yeah, the pyramids and like Mexico, sure, sure, sure. But where did civilization start? Sumer.
Hmm.
So how did that start, bro? One day people just showed up. Like it's actually a historical mystery. They don't know what happened. If you look in the book, it's just
I'll
like
show
all of a
you
sudden
some other. She
civilization.
went to some places there too. There's some
Sumer?
interesting. Did she call it Sumer? But like there was like the first language, written language area.
That's Sumer. That's
Yeah,
Sumer.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
she went there. Some of the artifacts that are there, and then some other temple that was looked interesting too. That was there.
Okay, so like she got in there and she's doing the most, bro. Like you could die. Like what are we talking about? But like imagine if you just had like a lot of scholars like this is what Graham Hancock said. He's like Graham Hancock has been on the ground. Like he's like seeing these things like but all these historians that work in like PhD offices, they have never physically seen these things. They just read the thing and they're like, okay, this piece is up with this, is whatever, whatever, right? And he's like, if you really want to put your money where your mouth is. Like, do you really know what you're talking about? Is to go physically see these things.
Hmm.
It's like, yeah, in the textbook it said this, but like, dog, it doesn't look at all like that.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So like, you can't all be itchy boots. Like, you all can't go and like just like put your life on the line like that.
Yeah,
But if you
I'm sure
could,
it's not that cheap to do that either, right? If you're going as a team or even like as
totally right.
archaeology, right? It's the risks that are involved. So insurance values are pretty high, right? These sort of things that are
Yeah,
in there. So
permits, all that
permits,
stuff.
yeah, 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 yeah.
And why is it? Wait, actually, wait. This is the biggest gaping question of them all. It's like if we all know civilization started there, and why has it always been a hotspot, a war zone? Why are we all not allowed to go there? Dog, the answers are probably there. Like, no, really think about it. It's like
Hmm. Hmm.
that's where civilization started. Sumer. Okay, you want to know how it started? Go there and figure it out, bro. Like excavate it. You know, use your team of scientists, but we can't go there because it's a war zone, right? Like so and it's
Yeah,
always been a
yeah,
hotspot
yeah, yeah. Sure,
our
sure.
entire lives, right? So like
Well, yeah. I mean, there was someone there that was there for a very long time. Saddam Hussein, for instance, right?
right,
Right.
exactly.
So he was there for many generations, right? Now he's not there, but it's like it's still not safe because there's a lot of um, other smaller factions that are causing problems, right? So until we get to that point, hopefully,
No, but maybe that is
But
the
then it's
answer though.
also very yeah. But then it's like it's that's also where we get our oil and stuff like that. Like it's it becomes a hot spot.
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Exactly. And it's like my question is why, like obviously we know why is it a hotspot, but why are you allowing it to continue as a hotspot? If you really want the answers of where we came from, you just might find them in the place where civilization started.
Hmm.
Like send some LiDAR there, bro. Like just scan the area and be like, "Oh, underneath these sands, there's actually like a giant city," or like, like what if you found Anunnaki bones? Like you find like giant bones of
Hmm.
like, because that's what they said. Like Anunnaki people are like 8 feet tall, right? It's like, what if you find those bones there?
Right.
But are you trying to keep that a secret from us, or is it just like, it's like correlation causation?
Hmm.
Are you trying to keep this a secret, or like did it just happen that way? You know? No, we
Right.
can't go there.
Hmm.
No, like what do you think it's just
I think it just
correlation?
happened that way. Yeah.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, it'd be too crazy if you're just like, no, we're actually like
I mean,
gonna
like
plan it out so
I
nobody
mean, they
knows.
were there. America was there for a long time after Saddam Hussein, but though again, the people, we don't want to be there. We don't want to be there. Get us out. Get us out. Like
Sure, yeah, okay, that's fair.
there are these sort of things that are happening, right?
Yeah, yeah, all right, that's fair, that's fair. Yeah. Okay, all right, true. But we need to create a petition and we need to make scientists go there and figure out the truth behind our ancient history. Yeah.
Yeah.
But okay, so with life being a video game,
I mean, there could be
you
scientists locally that are there, maybe trying to do that.
yeah, but like, come on. Like, send our best guys. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like it's
I understand what you're saying, but
like
it can look
for
differently for other people that are there too, right?
no, but like, all right, so with the alien thing, right? They're like in Mexico, they found an alien body. All the top Mexican scientists are like, it's an alien body. And then the Americans are like, give a piece of us, give a piece to us so we can examine it ourselves. And they're like, no. So it's like, yeah, like we need other corroborative evidence. Like, sure, maybe
No, no,
the
I
Iraq
don't disagree with
lab.
that. I'm just saying, like, you can have lead scientists from their own place, but to corroborate things, that is a different question.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's why I'm like, we send our top guys, bro. We need to all corroborate on this.
sure.
We could probably imagine if there was no war on this earth. We'd probably figure out things so quickly.
Hmm.
If there was no like dividing lines, like what is a country, bro?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Just like a set of rules.
Right.
Imagine if you could just go willy nilly. Like we can quickly figure out like, oh yeah, this is the truth. The reason
Hmm.
why we can't figure things out quickly is because of bureaucracy. Do you have the permits for that? Do you have the money for that?
Hmm.
Do you have the visa?
Yeah.
You're like, oh my God, bro. Yeah. Bureaucracy is the plague to our cultural and spiritual evolution.
Hmm.
Because that's also like the video game thing. It's like you're going from being a prisoner of your family because you don't have any money to being a prisoner of your job, and you miss that gap of freedom. And then
Hmm.
you get people like Itchy Boots who realize that they're free and they're like, oh, dude, I can just do whatever I want, play life like a video game. But like that's bureaucratic stuff too. It's like as a child, you're like, I'm dependent on my parents for money. And then as an adult, you're like, I'm dependent on my company for money.
Hmm.
It was like the bureaucracy is holding us all back from realizing our true potential.
Right. I mean, I think it's technology that has also let us free, right? So if she didn't have YouTube,
Facts.
she
That's
wouldn't
true.
be doing
She'd
this.
be dead. She would be dead. That's crazy. I bet you, like, people who don't know, it's like this woman who, like, bikes around and she has like 1 million followers or whatever on YouTube. But, like, if she didn't have that following, she'd probably be dead. Because, like, there's gotta be moments where she's like, oh, I'm about to die here. And she's like, hey, if I don't post this video,
Hmm.
they're gonna come after me, you know? And like, okay, okay, let her go. Like that's a great. That's what the UFO whistleblower said. They came forward because they're like, if we have YouTube videos about us and something happens to us, people will start to investigate,
Hmm.
which is what they don't want. Yeah. Anyways, all right, cool. One bit over. I gotta go shovel. It was a crazy amount of snow I
Right.
hit Ontario. Is there a lot in your area?
Yeah.
Oh, there
But
is
I don't
that.
have to shovel, so I'm okay.
Yeah, no, I don't either. But like my parents have
Yeah, I
though,
know, I
so
know.
oh my god. All right, troubles of the house. Anyways, till next week. Take it easy, Vish.
Peace.
Bye. All right, hope you enjoyed that episode. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, all those fun things, and check out our sponsors: Zenro Clothing Co., Portian Bakery, and Podbean. Take it easy, Vish.
Peace.